after class, when we sit down, when I sit down and go through some of your videos, I get to understand it more.
You have started recording.
Thank you.
So, as I was saying, in this course, we are going to explore certain concepts in Java. We are going to explore certain concepts in Java. And then we are going to see how we can write code in those concepts. Okay? We are going to see how we can write code in those concepts. Now, of course, for a programming language to be truly an object-oriented language, then these four things have to apply. That programming language has to have encapsulation, has to have inheritance, has to have polymorphism, and has to have abstraction. Of course, it should be grouped in classes, which would form the basic units in which the program is going to be built. So we are going to explore these themes in our lessons. We are going to explore what is a class, how we can implement encapsulation, how we can implement inheritance, how we can implement polymorphism, how we can implement abstraction in the code in which we write. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Object. Now, the course's name is Advanced Object-Oriented Programming with Java. Hence, it begs the question, what is object-oriented programming? Or what is object-oriented programming? Who can tell me?
Sir, can I answer?
Of course.
Okay, object-oriented programming is a paradigm on which some programming languages are built, and it focuses more on the object rather than on the process from which it is being formed or built.
I see. So what does that mean?
And that is classes as well, classes and methods and attributes from that object rather than the process.
I see. So Karen has explained it very well. But let's see the practicality of what she's saying. You see, there is a word that is used when she was talking about, and that word is object. Are you okay? And the begs the question is, what is an object? An object is equivalent to an entity. So that also begs the question, what is an entity in terms of programming? What is an entity in terms of what? Programming. So that also begs the question. The word entity can refer to a lot of definitions depending on what you are using. So as I said, in OOP, entity refers to an instance of a class. So in OOP, an entity is often represented by an object, full stop. Now, the word entity here is very important. We understand that it could be a living thing or a non-living thing, depending on the environment in which your programming language is based. So the environment that your programming language is going to dwell in will determine what kind of entity you have. 1 second, please. Okay, will determine what kind of entity you have. For example, if I take the environment, which is a school, and I say that that school is a university or a college-like environment, okay? in that environment, I have to ask myself, what are the entities, that is the living, breathing things, and the non-living, breathing things that help the university to run? In such an environment, you'd realize that immediately everybody will spot the most obvious thing, which is what? Students. Because without the students, you don't have a university. Of course, there should be lecturers to teach in that university. Of course, the lecturers and the students would be assigned to a particular what? Department. That department would be given to a particular faculty whose job is to manage that department. Sorry. Now, the faculty would instruct the department to provide courses that the student is going to what? Take. And that would be assigned to the lecturers for the lecturers to what? Teach. If I was to tell you, go and bring me a student, you realize that you can bring me a student. If I was to tell you, go and bring me lecturers, you can bring me lecturers. But if I was to ask you, go and bring a department is not a living, breathing thing. But in the context of the university, it is relevant. Hence, we give it meaning, we give it a name, we give it all of those things. Are we okay? So that makes it an entity. Now, the department alone, having a name and all of those things, is classified as the attributes of the entity. And so, again, object equal to entity, and every entity or object has characteristics or what? Attributes. So if I take a student, what characteristic does every student have? They will have a name, they will have a DOB, they will have a department they are assigned to, they will have a program in which they are doing. Are we okay? Now, if you are a student and you do not have any of these things here, then that means we can't call you a student in our environment. Is that clear? Are my students there?
Yes, sir, we are here.
Chris, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You can call yourself a student. Now, it is not only the characteristics that make up the student, but what can the student do? So over here, I have listed certain characteristics that every student should have. But again, what can that student do? That student can enroll on a particular course. That student can take an exam. That student, we can check his or her attendance. Now, these things here are things in which the student can do. They are actions the student can perform. Again, the word or the term that we use to describe the attributes here are data in which we are picking on the individual. And these form the actions that the data can be used to perform. So as Karen said, it is not only what you can do that concerns us with object-oriented programming. We are concerned about the data that you accumulate and what you can do too. So we are looking at two things with an individual. So for you to be a student, you can have these pieces of information and you can perform these pieces of actions. That is what makes it an object. Now, what is the difference between an object and a class? All the things I've written here are in terms of the word student, all the things I've written here in terms of the word student, what they can do and all of those things, are a blueprint to tell me what an actual student can do. So if a student has a name called, let's say, John, he has a date of birth of, let's say, 22/2/2202. He has a department in which he belongs to, which is IT. He or she does a particular program in which we are going to call info systems, and he can perform these actions, then Mr. John is an object from the blueprint student. Hence, the blueprint is what we call the class. Once I give it values, then it becomes a what? Object. That's why they say that an object is an instance. That is, it is one occurrence of the blueprint called what? Student, in this case, class. So an object is an instance of a class. If I'm saying that, then I'm saying that once I fill in the information for a particular class, then I have created one object of it. Is that clear? Please, if it's not clear, it is at this point in which you speak, because again, we are going to dive deep into programming. And unfortunately, things are going to get a bit more conceptual and difficult as we go along. And the first step of everything is you knowing what is a class, what is an object, and how we can create a class and an object. It's very important. Once you do not understand this, everything else becomes considerably difficult. You are no more in first year or second year. So the level of cuddling away. Now we will have conversations in which a programmer should have with another programmer. So it is very, very important that we put certain things in place. If you don't understand, this is not the time in which you do that. Do you understand? Everybody's quiet, it's class 1. Do you understand? Yes or no? If you keep quiet again, I just continue. Thank you. So everybody understands. Now, all of the things in which I have here, which pertain to the user's information that we gather. So all, for example, the student, his name and all of those things here are information that we gather pertaining to the student. Everything here in programming terms, we call it the what? The variable, okay? And then everything here, as you can see, there are parentheses beside it. That alone tells you that all the actions are going to be what? Methods. Or in other programming languages, you call them what? Functions. So it means that we are going to use variables and functions to describe a particular what? Class. So for every class, you would have to state the actions and information that it can hold upon itself. Let us see an example of this. Let us begin and see an example of this. I want to create a class called person. Now, for my class called person, I want to know two very important things. What is that person's name and what is that person's age? After I know the person's name and age, I want to have the capability of displaying the person's name and what? Age.
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
Very sorry. I was having issues with my internet, but now I've got it fixed.
sure. So I want to create a class called person. In person, I want to know the person's name and age, and then I can store the person's name and age. That's all I want to do. That's all I want to do. With that, I'll have to open my editor to begin. For this course, the editor I'm using is going to be IntelliJ. So I'll open up my IntelliJ. It's coming up. Great. Great. So I'll go to File, go to New, and go to New Project. In New Project, I'm going to call my application Person App. I'm writing a Java application in IntelliJ, and the SDK I'm using is the Eclipse version. I'll click on Create. I want to use this window. It would prepare my files for me. And then once it's done preparing my files for me, when I go to the SRC file, I'll see my main Java file there for me to use to write my application. Now, with this piece of information here, the first thing I want to do is I want to create a class. So I would right click on my SRC folder, and I'll go to New and go and click on Java class at the top here. I would select class, and in here, I will type the class name I want. All classes in programming start with a capital letter. That means that by convention, I must start my class with a capital letter. So here I have person, one word. That is the name of my what? Class. And then I'll press enter. Over here, you see a file will be created for me in which I can type the code for my class what? Person. In here, I can see I have public class over here. And in here, I have space here that I can type in my code. Again, public means that this piece of code here can be accessed, are we okay, by any other person who wants to use my application. Very important. So anybody who wants to use my code can have access to that. Of course, if I don't want anybody to have access to my code, I will change this public here to private. In doing so, immediately, the code I have here will be blocked by everyone. But of course, I don't need to do that. So here would be what? Public. In here, the first thing I need to do is create the blueprint for my class. And what does my blueprint entail? It entails me giving the attributes that are going to form the basis for the person in my environment. So in my environment, in my application, if you are called a person, what are the things in which you are supposed to have? You are supposed to have a name, and you are supposed to have a name, and you are supposed to have an age. That's what you're supposed to have. Now, I can't just write them like this. Because it is Java, I have to state what data type goes with each of them. Since a name is a concatenation of characters, hence it is a string. So over here, the data type of the word name is going to be what? String. Starting with a capital word, S. In here, everybody's age is an integer. So here I'm going to have int here so that the name value is going to be what? Integer. Perfect. Now, I want to tell my computer that I want to assign keyword the name and age when the application is being created. So when you are creating the object, at that point, I want you to enter the name and the age. Now, what allows us to create a particular object is called a constructor. It's called a constructor. Very important. By default, every application has a constructor. Sorry, let me rephrase. Every class you create by default already has a constructor. That is why if I come to my main Java class and I want to refer to my class in which I'm calling person, all I have to do is state the object I want. The object I want is person, and the name I want to give the object in which I want. So I want to call it person1 with a small p. This tells me that this here is a variable, and this here is a what? Class, because it starts with the letter P. So just a bit of a detour. When you people are writing your applications, let's say you want to do int number 1 is equal to 2. This here has a meaning to the calculator. It tells the calculator that create a space called number 1 and make the space you have created called number 1 suitable for all integer values. And then over here, you are saying that it's equal to what? 2. So now it knows that, okay, in the space called number 1, I should put there what? 2. When you come to objects, I've typed here person, and I've typed here person in small letters 1. This statement here, okay, looks exactly similar to the statement in which I have over here. What's the difference? In this statement, I'm also telling the computer to create a space called person1. Now, when you create that space called person1, make it suitable for the object what? Person. So that is what you're telling the computer to do. Now, once you tell the computer to do this, there is a problem. The computer doesn't have the information for person. Over here with integer, it already has integers settings in its system already. So when you tell it to, oh, create a space that would be suitable for integers, it knows what to do. It already knows how many shelves it should create, how much space it should be given, so on and so forth. It knows what it has to do. But for the object you just created, it doesn't know what to do. It doesn't know how to put the data there. It doesn't know what to do with the data that has come there. It only knows that you wanted to create a space that is suitable for the object you created. So the job of the constructor is to tell the computer that, okay, once you create the space, this is how I want the space to be set up as. That is why we will bring the word new person with double quotes. Now, if you are very observant, you realize that inside person here, there is nothing in here that has capital letter person and then brackets over here. When we are creating the class, there are no brackets over here. Over here, we have no person and brackets over here. So where did this piece of code come from? And why is it important? It's important because that piece of code there is the what? Constructor. Its job is to construct the object in which you want to use. So by default, every class automatically has a constructor. The constructor will consist of the name and parentheses. That is the class name, starting with a capital P and parentheses, by default. There are times in which you don't want to use the default. So, for example, in our case, I want to create the constructor myself. I want to be able to use a constructor of my choosing. It is upon me to create the constructor. How will I create the constructor? I would give a modifier, either public or private. Because the constructor will be used to construct your object, it makes no sense that you make it what? Private. You want people to have, you want other classes to have access to it, so it should be public. Once it is public, the next thing you have to put there is the class name, which is what? Person. Then you have your parentheses, and then you have your bracket. Now, in the parentheses here, you can put in variables you want to pass, or you can choose not to. In my case, I want to pass name. So I want to pass string name, comma, int age. That means that in here, I'm going to tell the computer that go for the name you have over here. Now again, there is a name here and there is a name here. So in here, if I type name, the computer just goes to this one. You can see that immediately when I highlight this one, it highlights the one in here. But that's not what I want. So I would use the word this to tell the computer that, no, I'm referring to the name that is outside. You can see that now when I highlight that one, it's referring to the one word, outside. The name that is outside should be equal to the name that is what? Inside. The name, I also want the age that is outside to be equal to the age that is what? Inside. So this here will construct the object for me, and not only construct the object, but also assign name and age to the variables in which I have over here. Now, once it does that, it means that I can display my info. Now again, display info is not a constructor. How do I know? It's not starting with a capital P. It's starting with a small d, which means it is a method. And if it is a method, I must state its modifier and its data type. The modifier would be public, and its data type would be what? Void, so that it returns no value. With that in mind, I can say system.out.print name plus name, so semicolon over here, space, and then I'll add a plus here, is equal to what? Name. Great. And then here I have system.out.print. I have age is plus age. One student will ask, sir, why is it that for this one, you didn't bring the this keyword? Because in this one, there is no local variable called name. So automatically, the computer will recognize that, oh, you are referring to the one which is what? Outside. If there was something like string name over here, it means that here, I will have to use this keyword to refer to the one which is what? Outside. But since I don't have any variable that shares the same name there is no need for me to bring the word what? This. So I have just created my object called what? Person. Now I can utilize it. So in here, I'm going to tell the computer that, oh, I want you to create an object called person. That person should have a variable called person1. And when you are creating the settings of it, use new person. And then in here, you can see immediately it tells you that it wants a name value. So the name value is John. And then in here too, it wants an age value. So the age value of the person here is 24. So I have just created one object from the class what? Person. That means that if I tell the computer person one dot, the moment I bring dot, look at the things which happen. It gives me options on the things I can do with the person. One of those things is that I can display his info. I can display its what? Info. I can display its what? Info. One second. Good. So now when I run this application, what do I expect to see on the screen? I expect to see name, semicolon, the person's name, age, semicolon, the person's age. I've already stated that the person's age and name is John and 34. So if I run this application, I should see on my screen John 34 as the name and age. Okay, I have an error over here. One second. So here I have to change this to int. I did that, but I don't know why it didn't apply. One second. Oh. Mm-hmm. Good. Good. So as I said, I should see what? John 34. Again, I could say tell the computer that, oh, for person one, he has changed his name. So go and look for the name property when you go to that object and go and look for what? Let's see, Henry. So now if I tell the computer to display info again, I should have the person's name changing to what? Henry. So again, I run the app and I can say that the name is John initially because I already set it to John. And then it's displayed. So this is the displaying which it did. I told it to go and change the name to Henry. So now the name of the person is Henry, but his age is still what? The same. This is how, for this course going forward, we are going to code. We are going to group our items in terms of classes, and we are going to learn how we can efficiently hide information from our users using encapsulation. We are going to learn how we can inherit properties from one class to the other, and that by learning inheritance, we are going to learn how we can take one method and change it so that it meets our needs using polymorphism. And we are going to learn that a user only requires the information in which he's going to need at that point and at that point only. All inner algorithms should be hidden from the user and only giving the information that pertains to him. And in that case, we are going to learn about abstraction. So all the things which make a programming language or any programming language in which we have an object-oriented programming language, we are going to take our pains and learn those various things which make the programming language an OOP. After that, during the mid-semester time, we would start to focus on either learning server-side application development using Java, Spring Boot, or we will learn how to build Android applications using Java in our course. If we are going to use Java to learn Android application, your computer has to be more than 8 gig, and the speed, that is 8 gig RAM, and the speed of your computer has to be fast. Other than that, the software to develop the Android application will not work on your computer. In this class, we are going to focus a lot, not just about you coding, but how you code and how you can code efficiently as an object-oriented program. Are there any questions? James, questions? Luis, you there? Karen, Ali, are you put there? I'm talking to myself.
No, no, no. We are here.
Yes, sir.
We are here. We are here.
Today is the first day. So today is the day we enlighten ourselves as to what we do. From when we appear here again, because the way you people are quiet, it shows that Charlie, the code has hit you hard.
Sir,
Very quiet.
sorry.
Yes.
I wanted to ask. I wasn't here earlier. Maybe if it's possible, you could assist me with some of the things you had discussed, or
Everything we discuss is from the time you joined. But the class is recorded, so you can always go and listen back.
okay, thank you.
So over here, I have a question on the screen. One of you should read it for me.
Design a bank account class in Java that represents a simple bank account. The class should have attributes for the account number, account holder's name, and balance. Implement methods to deposit money, withdraw money, and display the account information. Additionally, create a constructor to initialize the account details. In the main method, create 2 instances of the bank account class. Perform some deposit and withdraw operations on each account, and display the updated account information after each transaction.
Wonderful. So basically, they want you to do a banking app so that when someone goes and withdraws money, we all in this class, everybody here should have a bank account. If you don't have CRA, you have a Momo account. So if you transfer Momo to something, they'll send you a text. Bam, bam, your balance is this. You just transfer this to this. That one. We want to do that using Java. Are we okay? So again, I'll go to my editor. By the way, the writings here, can you see?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll go to new project, and here I'll call my application bank
Account.
balance
Account.
app
Okay.
and create. Over here, I have my main class. So I'll create my class in which is going to be called bank account. So I've created my class called bank account. Remember, I right click, go to new class, new Java class, then you just put the name there and click what? Enter. Very simple. So over here, I've created my bank account. Are we okay? Now, per the question that was given, it says that the person, the attributes we need, the information we will take from the person is the account number, the account holder's name, and then their balance. Are we okay? So over here, again, in my app, I should put in here that the attributes of an individual who has a bank account. Are we okay? So the attributes consist of the account number, which is going to be integer, the account holder, which is going to be a what? String, because it is your name. So your name is going to be string values. We have double, and of course, the double is going to hold what? The balance, because your bank account will have some coins there. So the coins, we must make consideration for the coins. Are we okay? Now, I have to create the constructor. So with IntelliJ, I can just click on alternate insert on the keyboard, and it brings the variables I've created up for me to determine which ones I want to use to create the constructor. And per the question, we need all of this to create the constructor. So when I press OK, it will create the constructor for me. Just like how I created it initially. I don't want to type, so I just use that one to create it. So I have just created my constructor that will be used to develop or build my object for me. Great. Now, I have to create first of all, the display account. Info, which is going to be public, which is going to be void, and the name of the method I'm creating is going to be what? Public what? Sorry, display account info. So in here, I'm going to say system, that is capital S, dot out, dot print, ln, and in here, I'm going to say account number is going to be plus account number. Sorry. Good. Another system.out.print again. And I'm going to say account holder is going to be account holder. Another system.out.print again. balance, which would be in Ghana cedi, is going to be balance. And when I'm done, I want system.out .print again. And I want a line so that it will demarcate and separate. Aha. So anytime in which I call upon display account, this information will be displayed. Very good. Now, public void deposit for a user who puts money in his account. So for a user who puts money in his or her account, we want to check, because we want to deposit money, we want to check and know that the money you want to know how much you are depositing. Okay, so we have double amount over here so that we can collect the amount of money the person is going to deposit. So if the amount of money is greater than 0, then it means the person has money to what? Deposit. So the balance of the person should be equal to the balance of the person plus what? The amount in which he or she wants to what? Deposit. This can be written in code as plus equal to. So again, plus equal to is the same as me writing balance is equal to balance plus what? Amount. Now, once you do that, we must tell the person that he has deposited money. So system.out.print ln should be deposit of Ghana cedi plus amount plus space successful, full stop. Other than that, we will tell the person that the amount of money he or she wants to deposit in his or her account is invalid because the amount is either 0 or less than what? 0. So in here I have invalid deposit amount, full stop. Amount must be greater than 0. Now, when we are done with telling you have deposited amount, we must also tell you your account status now. So display account info, because display account info is the method we created to always display account info. So the moment we call upon it, all the codes that will display account info will be appearing for you. In here again, I'm going to say public void withdraw. And with the withdrawal tool, I need to know the amount you want to what? Withdraw from your account. Again, I have to check if the amount you want to withdraw is greater than 0 And at the same time, the amount you want to withdraw is less than or equal to your balance. So that if somebody has, let's say, 100 Ghana in his account and he wants to withdraw 200, it's not possible. Do you understand? So this statement here is going to handle, sorry. Just want some space here so it to go up a bit. Good. So this statement here is going to handle if your amount is greater than 0 and at the same time less than the balancing which you currently have in your bank account. Are you okay? If that is the case, then we are going to tell the computer that it should reduce your balance. So balance minus equal to amount. Again, this is the same as me writing balance minus balance is equal to balance minus amount. Over here too, I'm going to tell the user that, hey, he has withdrew some money. So just to save me some time, I'm going to say withdraw of that amount is successful. And then over here now, I have to check if, first of all, else if into brackets, the amount of money the person is going to withdraw is less than or equal to 0, then we will tell the person that the amount of money you want to withdraw should be more than should be greater than 0. Other than that, then it means the person entered more money than he can withdraw. So we can tell the person that system.out.print ln insufficient funds for withdrawal. Booyaka. So this is our code for the bank account. So that the bank account is, we forgot. After we are done with everything, we must display the account information to the person. Very good. So now, when I come to my main method, because remember, everything has to pass through the main method. I can tell the computer that, oh, I want to create an object for bank account, for account number 1. So account 1. So the account 1 is just the variable name I'm giving. I can call it whatever in which I want. And once you create it, I want you to give it bank account what? Information and settings. And when you're doing the settings, remember that the person's bank account number is 44332211. Sorry. The bank account number is 44332211. The comma. The person's the name on the account holder is Louise Blankson, comma. And then finally, the money in which the guy has in the account is 3,000. Done. I can also tell the computer to give me an object of the bank account. Call this account number 2. And again, we want it to give it its settings, which would be pertaining to bank account. And in this case, the bank account number is 44332210, comma. The name on the account is Karen Strong, comma, and Karen Strong has 4,000 in her account. Great. Now, I can tell the computer that, hey, the person who has account number 1 wants to make a deposit. So the moment I bring dot here, you see, gives me all the things I can do with account number 1, which includes what? Deposit. And I want to deposit in that account 1,000. For account number 2, 1,000. When he's done depositing 1,000, account number 1 wants to make a withdrawal of 60 Ghana. When he or she is done making the withdrawal of 60 Ghana, he also wants to make a withdrawal of, let's say, 7,000. Great. So these are the things in which, oh, sorry, over here I said that it is integer. So it means there's no need for me to put it in what? Double quotes. Good. So over here, these are the things in which we want to do with account number what? 1. And then for account number 2, we want to make a deposit of 10,000. And we want to make a withdrawal of 40,000. Okay, so I can run my app now. When I run my app, I would see certain informations cropping up. So when I see here, I'll see deposit of this was successful. The account number is this. The person is Louise Blankson. Account number 1 is Louise Blankson. And right now, Louise Blankson, in his account, he has 4,000. Initially, he had 3,000. He added 1,000. So now he has 4,000, which is correct. He did a withdrawal. So over here, that's the next code here. He did a withdrawal. And when he did a withdrawal, now he's having 3,400, which is great. He wanted to do some illegal money removing of 7,000, even though his money is not up to. So he told him insufficient funds. So that is also correct. Then this is the amount of money you have. So you can't make any withdrawal. You see how it works. We told you have insufficient funds and we showed you the amount of money which you have. And over here again, we have another person, which is Karen Strong. She deposited 10,000. Then Karen went on to remove 4,000. So now she has how much in the account? 10,000. Now, the moment I do account 2 and I bring dot, we can see that I can personally get access to the person's account information. I don't want that. That is not acceptable. Your innermost thoughts, your innermost savings should not be taken by anybody. It should be for you alone. Hence, over here, I'm going to change or modify these things here to what? Private. That means that only the class bank account can have access to this. Anyone else cannot have access to this piece of information. So since I am in the main method now again, if I come to account 1, for example, and press dot, you can see that I cannot see the account name and account, those innermost variables. I can't have access to them because they are not public to the main class. They are only public to the account, the bank account class. The main class cannot have access to it because it is what? Private. And this is what the characteristic of encapsulation means. Over here again, you can see that all the innermost workings of my code is handled by bank account. So when you come here, all you want to do is make a withdrawal. So you just type withdrawal, you type the money you want to withdraw, and any calculation which goes on, how it goes on, where it goes on, all of those things, you really do not care as the user. You don't really care. So this is an example of the property of abstraction. Of course, when we go on further, we will learn about encapsulation and polymorphism. Inheritance and polymorphism. But today being the first day, this is a good example to see how we are going to code, how we are going to write our code, how our code is going to come together, and how we are going to focus on them and learn the properties, what they mean, learn to recite them, and learn how they are used. Very importantly, how they are used. I must be very honest with you. In this course, it's not like the other ones, in which you just wait till the next week and you don't practice and all of that. If you don't practice in this course, you will get an F. I can promise you that. Because you would have to not only know the definition of the property, but also know how to implement it perfectly before you get a proper grade. So going forward, practice and understanding is very important. When we come here next week, we will start by learning about what is encapsulation. Are there any questions?
No, sir. I think that's good.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, I'll put the question in your group and then I'll send you the recorded video too.
Oh. Hello, sir.
Yes.
So from the main Java window, since you said you wanted it to be private, so why is it that from the public static void, it's not also a private account since you want it to be encapsulated?
I don't understand what you just said.
Is it from what you just did from the bank account.java, change from public to private? So from the main Java section.
Pause. I changed what? Pause. I changed what from public to private?
You didn't want it to be public. Since you didn't want it public.
Again, pause. I changed what from public to private? I did not change the entire class from public to private.
Okay.
If I did that, then it means you will not have access to the entire class. I changed the variables in the class from public to private so that you only have access to the methods in the class, but where the data itself is kept, you will not have access to it. So before you can have access to the data, you must pass through something. You see, it's just like how in your mind, let's say you meet a friend in town, and let's say you really do not like the friend. You don't like the friend. But for public appearances, you just smile and talk to the person. But inside you, you don't like the person. Now, unless your actions change, no one will know this. It is for you to know. So the truth is, your innermost thoughts are your own. The only thing people see and infer on are your actions. So in your code, you want to keep the innermost thoughts private. The data, private. No one should get access to the data so that you would write a method that will control the data. So if someone wants to get access to the data, they can't do it directly. They have to go through a particular method. The same way here, you should not be able to just go and then check someone's bank account number. If you want the bank account number, then you must go through the method display bank account info, and that will go and display it for you. So again, Chris, the wording you use is very important. That's why each time I told you to pause, because Which one was private? Which one was what? Public. Very important. Any other question?
No, sir.
There are no other questions, then we thank God. Today is first day, at least first day there, we don't do plenty so that the students will run away from the course and never come back. But this time, we are not kids anymore, or kids in the course anymore. So I'm not going to bother you with advice. The only thing in which I'm going to tell you is that this course is very difficult because you are leaving you're not just coding, but you're coding a certain way. If you don't practice, you will fail. So all the, oh, I have job and the work is too much and all of those things, they don't play a role in your education and they don't play a role in your learning. So make time. Sacrifice. Stop going to some programs. As I said, I would send you guys the recorded video so that you have it. If there are no more questions, then I'll bring